everybody. This is Dr. Lori Shemek.
And I'm Omar Cumberbatch. You're listening to This Podcast Burns Fat. Hey, Lori, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. Omar, how's everything on your end?
Can't complain.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's probably because you have adequate magnesium levels.
After this show, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Because Kristen Bowen breaks this stuff down pretty heavy. And I have some, I had a lot of questions. Obviously, we'll dive into the show and get a lot of them answered. But I'm pretty sure I was deficient in magnesium without a doubt before, Kristen enlightened me specifically. I know you've been into magnesium for a long time, and, it's health benefits, it's weight loss benefits. So, it wasn't like I wasn't there yet.
Yeah. And it's really one of the most important nutrients that we need in our bodies. It's responsible for over 300 chemical reactions in the body. So we definitely need our magnesium. And the sad part is most of us are deficient because our soils don't have the amount of magnesium, and other issues too, like your diet, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll go into that in the show. And I think it will definitely help you maximize your life, actually, adding magnesium.
No, totally. So very enlightening, a lot to dive into. So let's jump into it.
All right.
Hey, Kristen, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
Doing really good.
Yay, Kristen. Thank you for stopping by. We're all excited to have you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're really excited for you to share a topic that we haven't discussed with our audience yet, and it's the topic regarding magnesium. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, of course, and just how you got into magnesium specifically.
Okay, so I had a health crash, and as what happened was a trifecta of issues. I went into a surgery with a known autoimmune condition. The cadaver graft that they used to hold up my bladder, because I was having some bladder issues, was bought off market and had black mold. Titanium that they used to hold the cadaver graft in my body, at the time, they thought titanium was inert, that it didn't give you any issues. But now we know that there is a percentage of people that react to titanium. And I am one of those people. And so the combination of what is called Melissa syndrome, which is a reaction to titanium, my autoimmune condition, and the black mold from the cadaver graft, I coded on a very simple surgery and ended up in a wheelchair, feeding tubes, catheters, colostomy, just tubes keeping me alive. And it was 3.5 years before we started putting that puzzle piece together of my husband literally taking a leave of absence and just taking me to Stanford, to Mayo, to anyone that he had heard of that could maybe help me, because at the time we had young children in the home. And so because of that desperation, it opened up this very Western medicine girl that just did what the doctor told you to do. That's how I was raised. That's what you did.
Right.
And it wasn't working for me. And that extreme situation helped push me into out of the box thinking. And a friend shared magnesium with me, soaking in magnesium, not just taking it orally in a synthetic pill, but soaking. And it didn't cure everything after they took the titanium and the moldy cadaver graft out. And I never want to come across that it cured everything, but it did start to put those enzymatic actions that my body was not putting into place. And that's what magnesium does, is it kicks those enzymatic actions into place. And I needed them all kicked in. I wanted all the light bulbs running.
Wow. That's really an impactful story. I know that most people are deficient in magnesium and they don't even know it, and they're suffering symptoms, a range of symptoms. Could you just go over those briefly?
Oh, I'd love to, because depending on which study you read, and I geek out over magnesium studies. There's one study from Texas A&M that talks about how 80% of us are not only low in magnesium, but extremely deficient. And so I like to tell people, if you've had sugar, if you've had stress, if you've eaten processed food, and if you don't always go to bed on time, and if you're on medications, you're not just deficient in magnesium, you're extremely deficient in magnesium. And the three of us are recording this podcast in July of 2022. And I think more than ever, collectively as a world, we understand how important our vitamin D levels are. And we don't get vitamin D issues unless our magnesium tanks first. And so I want people to understand, and I sing it from the rooftops. Okay, not sing, because I don't sing, but I'm always talking. I'm always talking about magnesium so that people understand when we go straight to vitamin D, we're plugging the issue with a Band-Aid. We need to go where that problem started. And that's with low magnesium, because magnesium is what converts your stored vitamin D to your active vitamin D. And that deficiency, when was the last time you had sugar? When was the last time you were stressed? Most people can answer yes to both of those in the last 24 hours. And those things push the magnesium out of our body. And then you put on top of that, currently, the time that we're living in is not like the time that my grandparents were in. They were getting magnesium from their food. Right. But because of the overuse of synthetic fertilizers, our plants cannot uptake the magnesium in the soil. It's locked. And so we're not getting it from our food. We're living a higher stress lifestyle. We're eating more sugar and simple carbs. And that's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe that no one's going to create optimal health. And that's what I want to step out of, because I want optimal health. It affects my relationships in my life, which are most precious to me, which I'm sure as they are to other people also.
Yeah, no,
go ahead, Omar.
No, go ahead. I know you.
I was just going to follow up with, so what are some of the symptoms or I guess, of low magnesium or deficiency?
Low vitamin D status, thyroid problems, hormone problems, autoimmune issues, cramping in your legs, migraines, bone density issues, anxiety, depression. And here's where I want to be really careful, because I never want to come across, if anyone is out there in that position that I was in 20 years ago, that you are just trying to put those puzzle pieces together because you don't feel well. I don't ever want to come across like, oh, magnesium is going to solve everything, because it does not. It's not that you go soak in magnesium and all of a sudden all anxiety is gone. It's about changing the patterns that are happening in your body and increasing the enzymatic options that are happening in your body. Magnesium turns that on. And so many of us are walking around with 75% of our lights turned off, and we're just surviving. We're waking up just to get through the day. We're waking up thinking, oh, 5 more minutes, when in actuality, 5 more minutes of sleep isn't going to do anything. And we're kind of feeling, a lot of people experience that feeling of being stuck. Let's get those lights turned back on. And magnesium cell saturation is what turns them back on. Yeah. And that doesn't happen through just taking a pill. You cannot get to cell saturation just through taking a pill. That happens through soaking in sea brine magnesium from the cleanest source that hasn't been watered down. That's when those processes start to turn back on. I like to think of it. I live here in Morro Bay, California. It's central California coast, right on the ocean. It's beautiful. My husband and I love it. And we love to put the top down on the car and go drive through Big Sur and along Highway 1.
That's a
And
beautiful drive.
oh, have you been
Yeah.
on it?
Yes. Many
Oh,
times. Yeah.
oh,
I
I
used to
love
live
it.
in California.
Okay. So that beauty, I mean, it's breathtaking.
It is.
And it's one of our favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go out and hop in that car, it can have the oil changed. It can be nice and clean, how I like it. It can have a full tank of gas. Everything's working well. But if it doesn't have spark plugs, I'm going nowhere on a road trip that day. I'm not leaving my driveway. Well, our body's the same way, and magnesium is the spark plug. And so my goal is that every person in the United States understands about the role magnesium plays in connecting to the enzymatic actions that need to be happening in their body. And a lot of literature will say, oh, it's 300. And the more we learn about our bodies and the more science understands, it's now thousands of enzymatic actions. It's not just hundreds, it's thousands. And you can be eating the most amazing food. You can be sleeping. You can be drinking optimal water and taking some optimal supplements. If you don't have enough magnesium, you can't connect those things to get the optimal benefit of what you're doing for your body. So magnesium makes everything work more efficiently.
Would you say, just as a follow-up, that the more one is deficient, the better they'll feel sooner? I guess
I wish I could wholeheartedly say yes on that. Mm-hmm. Here's what happens. I haven't done them obviously for a couple of years, but I take magnesium classes on the road. And so we just travel all over the place with my team, and we'd do a magnesium class, and people would come and soak in the magnesium. My gift to them was the magnesium and water, and they needed to bring a bowl and a towel. And then we'd talk about magnesium. We'd talk about the importance. I'd ask them questions. What are you experiencing? What's happening? And when I started doing that, because I've been talking about magnesium soaking now for 20 years, when I started doing that, nobody had problems. Nobody. And then about 10 or 12 years into it, mm-hmm. people started having issues when they soaked. And here's what I learned. Magnesium shines the light on what is broken in your body, and it magnifies it. So now, when people soak in magnesium, there is a percentage of people that will be exhausted after they soak. Now, magnesium is the chill pill mineral. It's the relaxer mineral. And typically, most people, you'll see their shoulders go down. They'll sit back in the chair. You can see the relaxation hitting. But there are people that will get exhausted like, Kristen, I can't move my arms. And they're deficient in potassium, and magnesium is shining the light on that potassium deficiency. And the body is so excited to pick up the magnesium, it drops the little amount of potassium it has, and then that sheer exhaustion kicks in. And so we need to make sure that people understand when you soak, it might not be the absolute best thing you've ever done if you have other deficiencies in your body. But let's learn and talk about those deficiencies so we can help people understand and decode the feedback that their body's giving them.
So where is magnesium coming from? I guess I want to go back to just like the real root of this conversation, because I know that a lot of people have misconception about magnesium in general. So can you talk about the differences a little bit and where, again, it comes from?
Right. So ideally, magnesium needs to come from our food. 20 years ago, one red pepper, not even organic, just a regular store-bought red pepper would give you your day's worth of magnesium. Now, an organic red pepper doesn't even have trace amounts. So The ultimate plan is out the window and not working. So plan B is we need to turn to supplementing with magnesium. And my preference, because please understand my filter, everything I'm doing with magnesium is to achieve cell saturation. And that's when your magnesium red blood cell tests at 6.3 or above. And so when I'm turning to all those different types of magnesium, I'm looking for sea brine magnesium because it has cofactors, and I want it low in heavy metals. So currently, right now, I could get sea brine magnesium from Russia, and I could get it from Utah, where my warehouse is actually located at. But they're both high in heavy metals. And so currently, and this could change, currently the cleanest sea brine magnesium comes from the Zechstein Sea, an underground source that has that beautiful sea brine that has cofactors that help move your magnesium red blood cell numbers. Because when you use and you soak in a magnesium that's manufactured in a lab, which is incredibly inexpensive to do, yes, you're soaking in magnesium, but it's not moving your red blood cell numbers. And that's where we see a difference in blood sugar. That's where we see a difference in insulin resistance. That's where we start to see a difference in bone density. That's where we see a difference in blood sugar numbers in heart. And so I'm always looking for that sea brine, low heavy metals that comes from the ocean, and it hasn't had water added to it to dilute it. So that's where my focus is of where I'm getting magnesium from.
So I understand that it's difficult to actually determine how much magnesium you have going on because a lot of it's stored. And so it's not circulating with a blood test, for example. Is that something you can talk about?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that, because understanding the different ways to test your magnesium and which is appropriate for what you're wanting, I think is really important information. So if you go into your Western medicine doctor and you say, I want a magnesium test, they have access to what's called a blood serum magnesium test.
Mm-hmm.
And magnesium is so important in your body that your body will pull from your bones, your heart, your pancreas, your everywhere to keep your blood serum at 1%. Because if you drop below 1%, you're getting close to death. That's how important magnesium is in your blood serum. So you can be deficient and have all of these other issues, but your blood serum will show your magnesium status is good because your blood serum is at 1%. After that health crash, I value my health. There are things that happened with my young family I can never replace. I miss things no amount of money can bring back to me. And so I don't want to just be surviving. I want to be thriving. And so for those who have that desire, we need to look at our magnesium red blood cell test. And that test tests the magnesium levels around your red blood cells. And we want that at cell saturation, and that's 6.3 or above on a magnesium red blood cell test. Many functional doctors will have that. And the cool thing is, in where we live now, the time that we live in now, we can get online and we can go to the lab itself, cut out the middleman and the increase of cost, and buy that, and then go right to the lab and have it tested. It runs about between $40 and $50, depending on which lab you're doing it from. And so that's the way I have it tested. There's a new test that came out of San Diego. There's an investor group working out of San Diego, and they've poured millions upon millions of dollars into this testing. And I was so excited when I first heard about it, but they brought it to market too fast, and it's just too inaccurate. And that's a urine strip. For example, if you were testing your ketone levels. A lot of people are familiar with that, and you can use a urine strip. And so I immediately bought some and started testing. But I could test one strip that would tell me I was low, and 10 minutes later, I could test another strip and it told me I had too much. And so in practice and on paper, it's fabulous, but in real life, they haven't worked out the science and the dependability of those tests. And so still at this point, that magnesium red blood cell is what I'm going for.
Oh, thanks for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Wait, just what is the name of that test?
Magnesium red blood cell. Now, my favorite place to get it is from Walk-In Labs. Over the last 20 years, I've had the privilege of seeing thousands of women's blood magnesium tests come back. And there's some other labs that do it, but I've seen a pattern that when they get really busy, we had a whole group of women that I was doing a coaching program, and they sent it in, and we had about 80 of them come back. Every single person, they sent it in the same day. Every single person had the exact same number. There was no variability. And that's a red flag to me.
Totally.
That's not real life. And so Walk-In Labs, over the 20 years that I've been a part of so many women testing, Walk-In Labs has had the best, most conclusive results in their testing. So that's where I go online.
Thank you.
So I was really, really curious too, because again, I think especially a lot of our audience used to the topics regarding food and supplementation, and you definitely believe that the best way to absorb magnesium is through soaking and through your skin. Can you talk about why that seems to be the best way to get magnesium in your system?
Yes. When you break natural law, you pay a price. And back when I was sick, I broke a lot of natural law. So, for example, if I was tired, I drink a Diet Coke. It gave me a short-term benefit. I got a little boost of energy to get through my afternoon. But there were some long-term consequences for that. And so when I started really putting together those puzzle pieces to create better health after what we call the crash, I realized I needed some principles to live by when it came to being healthy, because I was really overwhelmed. And one of those principles that I determined that worked for me is I don't make short-term decisions that take away from my long-term health. So you can go take an oral synthetic magnesium, but it slows down your body's ability to uptake nutrients from food. And I still, even as imperfect as our food supplies are right now, food is still our medicine and can help heal our bodies. I don't want to do anything that degrades my body's ability to uptake nutrients from food. My mom used to always say when I was a little girl, "You are what you eat, Kristen. You are what you eat." And I still think that's true, but we need to upgrade that to current times. We are what we absorb, because so many people have gut issues. And we know that magnesium, or magnesium mixed with citric acid in a calming drink, degrades our gut. And so I'm not willing to get that hit of magnesium at the cost of breaking natural law and taking in citric acid that's made from black mold, taking in synthetic magnesium that's actually decreasing peristaltic action and uptaking nutrients from food. And so absorbing it through your skin, it bypasses all of that. So we can get, because we are on plan B when it comes to magnesium. The first plan of just getting it from your food is not working currently. So we are on plan B, and I want plan B to be the best option available. And so soaking through your skin in that real sea brine that has not been diluted is the best way not to have side effects happening. I can't tell you how many women are hooked on magnesium drinks or magnesium pills to get their bowels going. And I'll say, please trust me, just trust me, drop it. We've got ways to help you with your bowel function until we can get your body naturally doing what it's supposed to be doing. And their gut gets better and their energy gets better. And so that's why for me, taking it in through my skin's the only way to go. I don't mess around with things that give me long-term issues. I did that for too long in my life, and it cost me in the end.
And so when we talk about soaking, I always have this concept of like Epsom salt baths, and also like, you have a product that you put it in like for soaking of your feet. Can you talk about the two and what's the difference, benefits and drawbacks of each?
Yes, I think on social media, this is the number one question when I post something. I put a heads up to my team and I'll say, I posted this today. Let's take a guess. How many people are going to say, hey, Epsom salts work just the same? So Epsom salts, first off, it takes 400 cups of Epsom salts to achieve a quarter cup of the magnesium that I love. And again, my filter is cell saturation. I don't have enough time or measuring cups to get that much Epsom salts in my bathtub to get me to cell saturation. And I also like to say, my sisters and I, we look alike, but we're very different. I have a sister who can take apart an engine on her kitchen table and figure out what's broken with it and put it back together. I have no clue. I do have a great shoe closet, though. And so we look very similar, but we are very, very different. Epsom salts and magnesium chloride, properly sourced from a good place, have some similar things happening, but they serve very different purposes. Magnesium chloride that I soak in does not have sulfates in it, and sulfates are great for liver function. But those Epsom salts cannot get you to cell saturation. So it would be like somebody going to my sister's house and saying to her, hey, what shoes would I wear with this? She would look at you like, you're crazy, I don't care, and throw you a white pair of tennis shoes. And if somebody came to my house and said, could you tell me what to do with this engine? I would be like, the clueless. And so we need to make sure we're going to the right thing with the correct expectations, because those Epsom salts, while beneficial, cannot get us to cell saturation. And that's when our body kicks in and starts clearing up the cortisol, that our hormones aren't working, starts boosting liver so we can break down the xenoestrogens so we've got better hormone balance, can clear up the glutamates so that depression and anxiety aren't driving us every single day. And Epsom salts simply don't get you there.
Well, that is interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Can you talk about what you do, the magnesium burn rate, and how do people discover that?
Okay, so this, I'm going to bring my husband into this. I've been married for 34 years and I adore the man. I absolutely adore him. And they say opposites attract. And in our situation, we have some core common values, but we are polar opposites. So we've got 5 little grandbabies. And I tend to worry, what's the world going to look like for those kids? There's some chaos happening right now. What is the world going to look like for those little babies when they grow up? I worry about that. His philosophy, Kristen, it's all going to work out. He recently had double amputation, and his philosophy was, I'm just going to relearn some things to get my body around. Literally, that's how he handled it.
That's very impressive.
It is, because it's his natural response to things. And his philosophy is, I'm not wasting any time of this precious life, wasting it on things I have no control over. And literally, that's how the man breathes. So his burn rate, because he keeps his cortisol levels so low, his burn rate is beautiful. He doesn't have to soak as often as I do. Now, I'm much better as I apply good breathing practices, and I do meditation, and I do journaling to help me with that anxiety that can kick in a little bit and get me worrying about people that are very important to me. I have a higher burn rate because of that. When that cortisol goes up, magnesium goes out. And then your food choices, the foods that you eat. Now, I'm someone who is very demanding about what goes in my mouth and the quality of the food. So my burn rate when it comes to my food choices is pretty darn spectacular. Other people, maybe they do more fast food, maybe, they had that sugar or whatever, that decreases. And then if you're on medication, pretty much all medications decrease your magnesium levels. If you've had surgery lately, the anesthesia, if you had to go under, that decreased your magnesium levels in a big kind of way. And so we need to look at all of those pieces together, and that determines my burn rate versus your burn rate. So if someone ever says to you, oh, you need 600 milligrams, they can't tell you that because they have no concept of how fast you're pushing the minerals through your urine with lifestyle choices. For example, I have autoimmune. If you have autoimmune, you have a higher magnesium burn rate. And so no one can tell you that. You have to take that responsibility and put more accountability that you own that you're in charge of that. And if you've ever been overwhelmed about creating health, that can create more overwhelm. And that's when we have to remember that when we're overwhelmed, it's a lack of action. It is not an emotion. Sometimes we can buy into that lie that overwhelm is an emotion, but it's not. Overwhelm is there because we're not taking action on the things that we know. And so when people start understanding about that burn rate, I know what's going to happen 99% of the time, and that's they hit that overwhelm. But if you will take that overwhelm and use it as a trigger to take more action, that's when you'll start understanding about your individual burn rate. And the beautiful thing that happens when you take that responsibility and that accountability is no one can take that away from you. And there's no amount of marketing that can tell you something different. There's no social media post that can sway you because you have that knowledge and information for yourself. And you have paid the price to understand that. And it's really powerful because we all forget how swayed we are by marketing and social media. And so it's this really powerful taking your power back, which when you do that, it decreases your magnesium burn rate because playing the victim increases our magnesium burn rate. And so it's a real beautiful, I think, a beautiful, sometimes brutal, so we'll call it a beautifully brutal process to go through and understanding what your body needs for optimal holding on to optimally that magnesium.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to talk about the burn rate because, it's just natural that I think when I was actually reading your stuff, and I know the audience is probably going to do the same. It's like, okay, we want to get started with magnesium. We're going to start the soaking stuff. Like how often should we be doing this? I know obviously the burn rate could be a factor, and can it be something that we do too much of? If, I know that you have a 30-day challenge as well that you for that. So I'm curious to see if too much is too much at points or is too little something that we would start recognizing the way our body reacts to it.
I love those questions. So first off, if anyone is interested in the magnesium, I'm asking them to up their hydration right now. Simply by upping your hydration, the magnesium will flow better through your body. Magnesium is hydrophilic. It needs water to move. And so if you are serious about getting to cell saturation, the first step you need to do is get your hydration spot on. because you will get more out of the soaking than you will if you're dehydrated. And then I like to tell people, if you don't, we found through the years and all the testing and the data that I've pulled, 20 minutes, you will uptake 80% of that magnesium in that soak. 45 minutes, your body will utilize about 98%. So we want your soaking time to fall between 20 to 45 minutes. We want you to use a quarter of a cup. And yes, you can do too much, but because you're taking it in through your skin, your body self-balances. In 20 years, I've never seen anyone have issues, but it's a waste of time and money. And I'm not getting healthy to sit around and just do the list of the healthy things I have to do. I am creating health to have deep connections with those little people that call me grandma. I am creating health to spend the most beautiful moments with my husband doing the things that we love. And so I love seeing people test to see where they're at after the 30-day challenge. Not that there will be damage that happens, but let's maximize. You only have 24 hours in a day, and you've only got so much time that you can devote toward creating health. Let's maximize it and not underdo it or overdo it, but know exactly what you need for yourself by knowing where you're at after that 30-day challenge. Because if you come in at a 5, you still need to soak quite a bit, 3-4 times a week to keep those numbers moving up. If you come in at a 6.8, dial it back. Soak 1 time a week, maybe even once every 2 weeks, just to maintain your numbers. And so that number that you get back after the 30-day challenge is really going to help you understand how often you need to soak. I wish I could say exactly this, but each of us are so individual. That would be selling you short. And so understanding your number and where you're at is going to help you individualize how much time you need to focus on soaking.
And is this a full body soak, or just something that like we could put in a tub and just put our feet in?
So I always thought, I'm a bath girl. Is anyone else a bath person? Are either of you bath people?
No.
I used to be.
My mother was.
It's gone recently. It's been a while since I've taken one.
Right. Some people are and some people aren't. I'm a bath girl, and I thought for sure, it just made sense to me. I'm exposing more of my skin to the magnesium, therefore a bath is superior. Well, at the time, I had teenage boys in my home, and there was no way they were getting in the bathtub. So we started doing testing with hundreds of people, which was more efficient, soaking full body in the bathtub or just putting your feet in a bowl of water. And here's what we found out. There is no difference.
Wow.
Your feet are what uptake the magnesium, and that's what counts, is your feet in the water, because that's where the pumping action, the magnesium moves through the lymph, and that's where the pumping action happens. In fact, we learned a really powerful principle after my husband had his double amputation. I, of course, after the surgery, wanted him getting back up. And so we tested to see where his levels were, and we couldn't get his numbers back up. And I talked to the doctor about it, and he said, "Oh, that makes sense. Your feet act as a pump, and his are gone." And so he doesn't have the ability to pump as efficiently as he did when he had below the knee amputation. So when he still had that part of his body, and a light bulb went off in my head. I'd just been working with a group of women that had done everything I'd asked them to do, and their numbers hadn't moved. And I remembered a conversation that they talked about. They were bath girls like I was. So I immediately threw out a group text to everyone and said, "Answer me this question. When you're in the bathtub, do you put your feet up on the edge? I know I do." And they answered back, yes. And I said, "Here's the deal. We're going to rerun this test. I will send you magnesium. I will pay for the testing. I have to know if your numbers move by dropping your feet from the top of the bathtub down into the water." And they did. They moved. And so it's
Wow.
our feet that do the pumping.
Mm. Wow, that's great. That's good to know, because
Yeah.
I knew the answer where you were going with it. Because I'm
Yeah.
just envisioning their feet sticking out of the
Yeah,
tub.
I do it all the time. I hop in the tub, throw my feet up, put my arms up, and just kick back and relax. Your body does not absorb it like your feet pump it. And that's what we want. We want it pumping. And then here's the other thing that happened. My mom loves her magnesium soaking, and she's 86 and she lives on her own still. She's in great shape. She is starting to show signs of age. And she called me and she said, I've got to give up soaking in magnesium. I was like, Mom, no, you need it now more than you did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because the older you get, you need more magnesium as your body starts to, show the signs of aging. And she said, Kristen, I just cannot carry that big bowl of water anymore. It's just too much for me. And I realized she was filling that big bowl of water 3/4 of the way full. And I said, oh, Mama, let me tell you something that I think is going to be a game changer. The only thing that needs to happen is when your feet get in the bowl, that contact is made with the soles of your feet. That's it. You just need to make contact with the water. It doesn't even have to go on top of your feet. So she went from carrying around this big, awkward bowl of water to just 1 to 2 inches in the bottom of her bowl and got the same effect. And so understanding how that works, I think, is really important for people.
Yeah, no, thanks for highlighting that.
Yeah.
That's real important.
Excellent.
And I guess to wrap up, one of the things, obviously, this is a weight loss show, and we were all concerned about that. And I know that there's a direct link between magnesium and metabolism.
Yes.
So can we talk about that for a sec?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a menopausal woman, and the weight started to hit because my estrogen had changed, which balances cortisol. And when that cortisol spikes, losing weight becomes non-existent. Magnesium offsets cortisol spikes in your body. And so magnesium becomes such an important role, not the only factor. Please, it's not the only thing. Losing weight is a layered process. And I'm not saying, oh, soak in magnesium and boom, the weight will melt off. It does make it easier because it helps you balance the cortisol issue in your body.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for all the nuggets of gold that you delivered today. Really helpful. And I know, I know one thing that you really seek is to help others optimize their health. And so I think you've done that today. I think you fulfilled your mission. Is there a way people can find you and find your product?
Yes. They can go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, and I am incredibly active on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, and Instagram. And all of those are linked right on the website. I do what's called a walk with me, where I get up early in the morning. I think that early morning red light from the sun is so anti-inflammatory and good for our body, and combined with a magnesium rich environment, it just is incredible what that synergy that happens. And so I do what's called a walk with me series, where I walk down the beautiful beach that I live on, and we just talk different topics of health while I walk on the beach. And there's hours and hours and hours of loads of different topics on my blog, on YouTube, but livingthegoodlifenaturally.com is where they can go to access all of that.
That's wonderful. That is great. So thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, really appreciate
it. Thank you for having me come on. And for the two of you, I don't know if your listeners understand all the work behind a podcast. And it's all I had to do today was just show up and hop on, and you guys invited me, and it was wonderful. there's so much work that goes into it. And so your listeners and I would like to thank you for all of the hours of work, for the content that you put out. And you just build this bridge for us so easily to listen to it or to be a guest and just come on and talk about a topic that I'm really passionate about. So thank you so much for that behind the scenes details that we don't even begin to understand of what goes into a podcast. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you for the kind words. We
that was really sweet. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Work. So much work.
Is.
I think I did 7 episodes before I dropped mine.
Yeah, but it's something that we love, and and the feeling is mutual in that I know that you have done a lot of work and experienced a lot in your life. And so you're here to deliver that. So it's mutual for sure.
Yeah.
My goal is to help make my little corner of the world a little bit easier, a little bit softer place to land. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that as I share what I've learned, that people make a connection and then they take action. And we're just all here supporting each other as we move along this journey of optimal health, because we're walking away from it. We're not getting healthier. We're walking away from it. And so I want to be that loving voice that says, hey, come back this way. Come back this way, because we need people showing up with brain function that works so that they can show up with their gifts. And I look at those grandbabies and I want people showing up as the best version of themselves to make change in the world, to help create a better place, because I really am invested in them and I want them to have a better world. And it takes the adults taking that responsibility, making sure that we feel good and that those ideas and inspiration is flowing. And then we are able to take action on it because we feel so good. And then we can help make our little corner of the world better. And then we get lots of people doing that. And there's a synergy that comes from that. And that's what I want to be a part of.
You're definitely contributing to that ripple effect.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah, Kristen. So have a great rest of the day. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of This Podcast Burns Fat. We're so excited to have you as a listener, and we're hoping that you really enjoyed the content as well. And if you did, please run over to iTunes and provide a rating and or review. It will go a long way in helping us continuously build our listenership up so that we can provide you with excellent content regarding fat loss, weight management, and just an overall healthy lifestyle. Thanks so much. Have a great night.